Welcome. I'd like to share 3 of my personal favorite practices today that I use to help slow down my system, relax my body, quiet my mind, and hopefully move into a state where I'm able to fall asleep. I'm going to briefly give you the overview of these practices in this video. And then I'll put some links in the description for you to help find some examples of what these practices might look like. So for my personal favorite practices, the one I use the most often these days is Yoga Nidra meditation. And when I do this practice, I usually begin with a body scan. And I find that having done this practice on my own, outside of the sleep context, and in bed when I'm trying to fall asleep, that my body and mind know now when I embark on this practice what to do. And so it becomes more and more effective the more you practice in helping reach a state of relaxation. Now, it's really important to say that the purpose of Yoga Nidra meditation is not to fall asleep. So this is a wisdom practice. It is a much broader practice. That being said, it has this really wonderful side benefit that can be a helpful practice for moving into sleep as well. So if I'm having trouble sleeping, I usually begin with a body scan. I go through my body piece by piece, just feeling each part of my body and noticing it and moving through nice and slow. And I find now that very rarely do I get through more than one leg before I'm asleep. So I offer lots of Yoga Nidra practices. I'll link you to some examples. I'm not going to take you through a body scan right now. But I recommend that very much as a practice to help you move into sleep. Another practice that I do quite often when I'm trying to fall asleep is a breath awareness practice. And in this practice, you're not trying to do anything with the breath. You're just feeling and noticing the breath. In this, it's very similar to the body scan or body sensing that we do as part of a Yoga Nidra meditation. And what I'll do is I'll start by just noticing my breath. If it's comfortable, slowing my breath down, feeling my breath in my body. I'll notice any breath movement in the front of my body first. And then I'll move my awareness around to the sides of my body. I'll just observe the sides of my body, noticing my breath. I'll move my awareness around to the back of my body, feeling my breath in the back of my body. I'll bring some awareness up to my upper ribs and shoulders, feeling the breath in that area if it's there. And then lastly, I'll bring some awareness down to the base of my rib cage area around my diaphragm, maybe feeling some breath movement through my abdomen down into my pelvic floor. I'll link you to a video for doing that practice as well. That can be really effective for taking me towards sleep. And again, often if I do it in bed when I'm trying to fall asleep, I'll find that I only get through a couple of stages of feeling my breath before I'm already asleep. So I love those practices. Another practice that I do that sometimes can be done within the Yoga Nidra meditation, but also can be done on its own, is a breath practice that helps to slow the breathing down and focus the mind a little bit, because sometimes the mind can be a major obstacle to falling asleep, right? And so this practice is, first of all, to just notice your breath. And then to start to slow your breath down only as much as is comfortable. So it's really important to pay attention to whether working with your breath is increasing any feelings of anxiety or tension or strain. None of those things are conducive to sleep. And so we're really looking for the breath to feel easy and comfortable, and just to find a slow rhythm that suits you right now. And that rhythm might change for you moment to moment and day to day, right? And then what we'll start to do is we'll do a practice of counting the breaths. And I like to do a couple of things with this. I like to count backwards because that helps to engage the mind a little bit more. I find that I'm very adept at worrying about things, and I can count up and worry at the same time. But it's much harder for me to count backwards and follow my thoughts. And so I'll count backwards. And then the other piece of this, if you can do it and focus, is to count the inhale and the exhale. So a full breath cycle for each count, right? So we can inhale, exhale 9, inhale and exhale 8, inhale and exhale 7, and then keep going, counting your way down all the way to 0. Now, this is a very adaptable practice. Some people will find that they're able to go from 9. Some people might find it's easier or better at first to choose a smaller number or a larger number. I've heard the number 29 bandied around a lot as a number to count down from. Now, obviously, if you're counting for longer, that can be helpful if you need a little bit more time. Okay? When I do this counting down practice, I don't always fall asleep during it, but I find that it can be helpful to shift myself, my system, my body-mind system into a different gear to help me start to prepare to then maybe do some other practices that help to support sleep. There's some breathwork practices that I use as well. There are some movement practices that I use as well. So this is by no means the only way to do it. And these 3 practices might not be your favorites. They just happen to be mine. I hope this is helpful as a starting point. If you'd like to know more about practices that could be helpful, look through some of the playlists on my page. I have several dedicated to breathwork and meditation and restful practices that might be helpful for you. And I hope you have a really wonderful sleep.